We will call the meeting to order for the Economic Development Authority for Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. We should start with a roll call because Les is zooming in today. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner Bedker? Here. Commissioner Fix?
Here.
Commissioner Yanni?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
And President Brum.
Yes. All right, our first item is to have a public notice and conduct meeting by teleconference.
I'll receive the order. I will receive and order file the public notice.
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Can we call roll for vote? Heather?
Commissioner Bedker?
Yes.
Commissioner Fix?
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
President Brum.
Yes. Item number 3.1 would be to approve the minutes of our January 12th, 2021 meeting.
I'll offer the motion.
Second.
First and second. Another roll call, Heather?
Commissioner Bedker? Yes. Commissioner Fix?
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
President Brum.
Yes. Item 4.1 would be to receive the EDA Director's Administrative Report for activities in January 2021.
All right, good morning, Commissioners and President Brum. You have the report in your packet. There really isn't anything out of the ordinary to report this month, other than the Garden Terrace appliances are starting to trickle in and be installed, as well as bathroom updates for tenants who opted for the unit upgrades.
I will make a motion to accept the EDA Authority administrative activities for the month of January 2021.
I'll second.
Just a quick question, Heather. I think this was the section that had the waiting list for Garden Terrace, and it's still over 70 on the waiting list.
Let me pull it back up here.
I guess my question is we once a year you kind of update that list or go through it and see?
Usually in the spring, we do
In the
waiting
spring.
list purges.
Okay, that's what I was mainly wondering, just, and it's stayed consistently in that number, and we have no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah, that waiting list typically ranges between 60 and 90,
Okay,
so.
that's all I want to know, and you're going to be looking at that in the spring. Perfect. All right, we have a first and second. Let's call the roll.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Fix?
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
President Brum.
Yes. Item 5.1 would be the EDA claims for the month.
It's considerably smaller than usual.
This is just a slow time of year. We don't typically have construction projects happening in the winter months, and so it's been quiet. We haven't had a lot of snow, so a couple snow removals on there for December, but yeah, it's been quiet.
Heather, can you briefly talk about the cleaning Broadway House, the 490 bill?
Sure. We typically that's done by our maintenance technician. We have been without a maintenance technician since mid-October. And so I have had someone come in every other day to basically do disinfecting because of COVID. So wiping down the commonly touched surface like elevator buttons, door handles, that sort of thing. And then, vacuuming hallways once a week, light dusting just to keep the common areas looking nice. And then once we get a maintenance person hired again, they'll take those duties over.
So is that I'm trying to remember the firm Lloyd, right? Is that their employee or is that ours?
No, Lloyd Management doesn't have anything to do with the public housing program. They only manage Garden Terrace apartments for us, and the public housing claims are for Broadway House and our public housing rental houses.
Well, this is our employee.
No, she's not a city employee. She's someone I'm contracting to come in and clean until we get a maintenance technician. She's just
guess that's
someone that does cleaning. She's an independent contractor.
I guess that's what I mean, that cleaning technician, that is a city employee or? EDA employee?
When we have a maintenance technician, they are a city employee.
So
Part-time.
Why we not filled that since October?
We haven't had applications for that position. We did just interview someone yesterday afternoon, and we are interviewing another candidate next week. So we're hoping to get that filled as soon as possible. We've been recruiting. We've had some interviews in the past that have not resulted in a hire. So we're working on it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Heather, that position is a part-time position?
It's part-time, 25 hours a week.
Have you seen those costs increase due to COVID with the additional responsibilities with cleaning? Or is it hard to tell because we've had to contract that?
No, our costs haven't increased. When this started about a year ago, we still had a maintenance technician at the time. I just asked that person to do the disinfecting every other day. And then, like I say, we haven't had someone in that position since mid-October, so I've been paying someone to come in and do that disinfecting. But we're also not paying a staff person at this time, so our cost is actually less than it is when we do have the position filled, because I pay that part-time staff person more than $490 a month.
Would it be feasible for us to consider to continue contracting then if we can't fill it, if it's less cost?
Well, we do need to get the maintenance technician position filled, and then they'll take over those duties again. We need someone with a boiler's license to take daily readings, do preventative maintenance on the generator, do repairs for our tenants. So it is in the job description for the maintenance technician to also do the light cleaning that's needed.
Gotcha.
As well as they do some snow removal, and they do all of the lawn mowing in the summer. So that cost will go away when we get a hire.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the EDA February 9th, 2021 claims list.
I'll second it.
We have a first and second. Any additional discussion? Or we can call roll for this item, Heather?
Commissioner Betker,
Yes.
Commissioner Fix,
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
President Brum.
Yes. Item 6.1, to consider and approve a lease agreement with EDA property.
All right, staff was contacted by Mr. Ted Bergstrom with of B Concessions LLC. Recently, he is interested in renting the EDA-owned property located at 326 North Broadway again this year. We rented that property to him last year. He has a food truck, and because of COVID, a lot of the vendor fairs and things that he typically would attend with his food truck were canceled, and he anticipates that for a good portion of 2021 to be the same again. So he would like to have his food truck in town here. And it worked well last year. He's asking for the same terms, the same rent of $150 per month. He's looking to start late March, weather permitting, and he's committing to pay the rent through the month of October 2021. The rent of $150 does include the utilities, so we pay the electric. And we looked at the electric bills from last year, and the rent, typically we've rented this in the past for $100 a month, and not included utilities. He wanted the utilities included, so we raised the rent by $50, and that adequately covered the electric usage. Bills ran between $40, $48 a month usually, so we were just about right in what we're charging there. If this is agreeable to the EDA, I will ask the city attorney to draw up a rental agreement and send that to Mr. Bergstrom for his signature.
I'm very
Well,
happy
having
to
been a connoisseur to that place many times last summer, I'm going to offer a motion to approve the lease agreement for the EDA-owned property.
I'll second that. And I just must say, I'm very happy to see this come through again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a question. There hadn't been any complaints from tenants at the Broadway or Browder House or the surrounding, I mean, like
No, there
parking is
were
never an issue or anything?
No issues.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Now, last year, there were a couple other folks that were interested, but they never did start up in that same location, did they? Did we ever
Staff
have a
was
second?
never contacted by anyone else. I know there was talk of it, but we were never approached by anyone else. Now, he is only renting a portion of that property, so there is room for other people. He just asks that if we allow another lease, we don't allow a food truck that serves similar food to what he is serving.
Right, I remember that from last year too, and his food is unique enough that that's great, so.
So we have a first and second.
Mhm.
Any other
At
discussion?
First, we had a
Second.
Yeah,
Commissioner Fix seconded.
so no other discussion, and then we can call roll?
Commissioner Bedker,
Yes.
Commissioner Fix,
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
yes,
President Brum.
Yes. Item 7.1, receive the Economic Development Director, Assistant City Manager's Activity Report.
President Brom, Commissioners, really just 2 points of discussion. The first is I would like to close the COVID relief granted at the end of this month. There is only a handful of businesses that I'm going to attempt to reach out to again to give them the application, probably about 5 or 6 that need to turn them in. Other than that, we have pretty much hit all the businesses that technically qualify for that program. So by the end of the month, we should have reached everyone who qualifies for that grant. And then the second point is just something that the EDA needs to acknowledge on our commercial rehab loan program. So on June 9th, the EDA approved a commercial rehab loan in the amount of $75,000. This loan was given to a business that didn't qualify as their primary purpose was not retail, service, nonprofit, or business office. The primary use of that building was manufacturing and warehousing. This loan was the first loan that brought our account negative, and the following loan brought us to the negative amount of $60,000. This kind of serves as the notice that the EDA acknowledges the mistake that was made for auditing purposes. This loan amount also triggers the need for a business subsidy reporting. Moving forward, the maximum dollar amount for the rehab loan will be $74,000, as that will not trigger any business subsidy requirements. The policy for this program will be updated accordingly.
so Chris, let me ask the question, should we change our requirements to include those type of businesses or no?
No, this is primarily for commercial. The city does have a revolving loan fund for businesses outside of those qualifications. The rehab loan really is to help with the downtown businesses and other businesses on our shopping corridors.
So this
And it's
particular
too late in
business,
the game to switch that around.
No. Again, when we have other businesses such as commercial or manufacturing, they need probably larger sums of money, and that's when they would use the city revolving loan fund. That's when they would come in and potentially ask the EDA for money to help purchase or fix up their properties.
Okay,
and this particular business was not located in the downtown corridor?
No, and they were not located on a shopping corridor either.
Okay, and can you just elaborate a little bit more on that reporting requirement? Is it that triggers at $75,000?
At $75,000 or above, it triggers state statute where we do have to do business subsidy reporting. And so the community development director will be working with this business to make sure we get the correct information to report to the state.
Is that an annual reporting?
Yes, it is, for
And it's-
2 years.
And it's a state mandate?
Mhm.
Okay. So for us, for this particular loan program, that's why we want to kind of keep it below that threshold?
Yeah, $74,000 will
Okay.
no longer trigger the business subsidy requirement.
Okay.
so Chris, let me ask you this, if we made a mistake, $75,000 mistake, and now we're basically out of money, should we or could we put $75,000 back into that account so that if somebody does come along, we won't say, sorry, we have no money?
I would say, again, this was kind of the discussion that we had last month. I would say no. We do receive money in this account every month as we get repayments. And, you know, if we keep on dropping money into all our accounts, then we're not going to have money for future projects. You know, coming down, you know, this kind of triggered, you know, zero money being in the account, you know, a loan or an application was given out to another business that also didn't qualify, and they had turned that application in knowing that there was $0 in the account. And so, because the EDA, a couple months prior had said, yes, if we get applications, you know, you can bring those in and we potentially could approve those. So I would say where we just need to be vigilant and look at what we have in that account, and what we have in that account is what we have that in that account until it replenishes itself.
Okay, thank you.
And I recall the discussion too, that if a qualifying, now that this whole new qualifying business is perhaps a little bit of a new caveat, but we would be willing and able to fund a request if it came in, if it so needed. I guess I'm curious, I know the city has had a revolving loan fund, but there's really nothing that would stop us from granting a loan to a qualifying business for other purposes other than this particular program if the need arose. But I guess the important thing for us to remember then is that the potential of some sort of mandatory reporting requirements if we surpass that $75,000 threshold.
Yes.
Okay.
And
so-
we usually do, because that's usually job requirements and things of that nature. So anytime we've used revolving loan funds or things like that, we are able to kind of put a business subsidy agreement prior to that.
Okay.
So we can make sure we
Is-
have the reporting requirements.
Is that, I know, just going back, because you and I and Jessica have been working on that, well, kind of sprang from the whole community development question. Would that be something we would want to incorporate then into our request form that we're working on currently, that if it meets certain thresholds, or do we want to try to avoid that reporting?
No. For the rehab loan, yes, you want to
Yeah,
kind of avoid those
that's a very
things, but
specific program, I understand that.
anything, all the requests that we're working on, the request for funding, we would put the business subsidy clause in there, any amount
Okay,
over
good.
75,000, yes.
Perfect.
Approximately how much accumulates in that account per month from repayment of the current loans?
About 7,000?
Okay.
So if we're lucky enough to go about 10 months.
10 months,
we'll
we'd
have
have
a. But
I just want to point out too, with Les's question about replenishing the fund, we already came to you and requested a transfer of funds because this account was negative. So we already had to put additional funds
exactly.
into this program. As of January 31st, we have about $23,000 available. So it's starting to build back up with the payments that are coming in.
So there you go, less than 10 months, so.
And I'll also remind you, and for those that are new, educate you that this fund used to sit unused. And because of the changes we've made in increasing the quantities of loans allowed, it's now on the street and it's being used, and that's what we want.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things we identified is the fact that construction costs and materials have gone up. So we're trying to keep pace with that and to make it meaningful for businesses wanting to come in and utilize it. So I think that's, it's been very beneficial. I mean, it's a good problem to have that we ran out of money, even though we may have not given it to the right business, but I mean, it's still a good thing, I think, overall, because we're certainly impacting in a positive way our business community, and it is good. I mean, a great problem to have that we're out of money, but we do have the resources to replenish it. And that's why I don't want to discourage any businesses from not coming in and taking advantage of it if they've got the need right now. We just got to be a little more careful, apparently, of our focus, and I'm sure we'll do that going forward. Thanks for pointing those items out, Chris.
I'll make a motion to accept the EDA Assistant City Manager's report for January 2021 activities.
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Is there any other discussion? We don't need to have an official motion for you to suspend the COVID relief
No.
fund? Because we had set a deadline on that when we set it up originally, didn't we?
Yes,
Okay,
and
okay.
I've just informed me that we're gonna,
Great,
just
perfect.
closing it.
Okay, so we have a first and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's call roll then, Heather.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Fix?
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
President Brom?
Yes. So that passes, and it looks like that's our slate for today. So are we done? I don't know if I still beat Charlie's record. I think he probably got one done in about 15 minutes, but I'll work on that, so. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Les.
Thank you.